Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got your diagnosis of autism and what life is like for you.
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm James Flanagan. I was diagnosed with Asperger's, which is obviously a type of autism, when I was very young. I was always at school considered like the naughty child sort of thing. And then it wasn't until I got to a school sort of thing when they saw like this before. They're like, oh yeah, I think it's like autism. I want to get checked sort of thing, and got it checked, and yes, it was autism.
And how old were you, James, when that happened?
God, ages ago. I think I must be somewhere around about 10, I would say. As far as I back, I remember.
And what sort of school did you go to?
I've pretty much been through mainstream schools. I didn't go to any specialized school until like my mid-teens. And even though it wasn't 100% suitable because of the size of the school still, but it did the job. But I've always I jumped around quite a few different schools, because they just didn't know how to have someone like myself. I didn't fit any of the categories.
And why is that, do you think?
Well, I just didn't so obviously I didn't show all the different signs which they're looking for socially. They're looking for someone to be either just mixing in with the general crowd, or if they're not, they're a troublemaker and they're to just rebel against the system. And I was neither. Yeah, I was trying my best, but I couldn't fit into the environment because of various aspects and everything. So I got labeled as kind of like the troublemaker, but I didn't quite fit into the general troublemaker kind of image.
And so what happened, James, when you left school? Because now, how old are you now? And what's happened between leaving school and now?
So now I'm 30, and I pretty much just been sort of I tried various different areas to get jobs sort of thing, various sort of agencies that can help with employment. But it's been difficult, to be honest. And I've got a job now on Fridays, which is a reception job at the company that support me. And but yeah, it's pretty difficult because a lot of people don't want to bother with autism. It's like when they hear the autism and everything, they come like alarm bells start ringing. But actually, it's not that difficult to accommodate someone in the workplace that has autism. Just a few things need to be taken into account. But yeah, still hard to find work. Yeah.
Could you perhaps describe what the main features of autism are for you? How does it affect you?
So I've got high anxiety like all the time. So I'm always anxious, but I've got not all the anxieties are bad. So I have things where I call my happy anxiety, my sad anxiety, that sort of stuff. So no matter what I'm feeling, whatever feeling I'm feeling, there's always some kind of anxiety which is also being felt at the same time. And I have what I call my base level anxiety, which is a very low kind of lingering anxiety that's always about. So I'm always anxious. I've also been diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, so my senses are like super heightened. So touch and everything like that is all super heightened. So I can't tune out sounds either. Yeah, all the sounds everywhere come at me all at once. So that's taking a long while to get used to. Yeah, so but it does make me very analytical. My mind is very focused, and what I call my focused intellect, is really high. So I can do a lot of technical tasks like designing things. I've got a 3D printer, and I design things and print them and everything. I'm good at electronics and computers. So those are the positive parts of it.
I can see, and those are incredible assets as an employee. If only you can find the right employer to recognise those, I suppose. And when it comes to healthcare, James, have you had any experiences of going to the doctors or the hospital that you could perhaps share with us?
Yeah, it often becomes sort of with me and my mum. It becomes kind of like a bit of a funny thing because often a lot of people so I go to like GP and that sort of stuff. They don't always, even like in hospital or visits and that, they don't always understand what to do. So it's almost like a bit of a let's see how this person behaves. We laugh at it when they don't get it right, sort of thing. It's very funny. But the biggest one really is touch. I've got myself pretty good with it, but unexpected touch is a real big thing for many people with autism. Senses are high, and unexpected touch causes like bursts of anxiety. So best thing to do is like if you're about to touch someone, let them know you're about to touch them. Don't touch them without first letting them know you're going to do so. And it's best to point to where and how where you're going to touch them and describe how you're going to touch them. So that person, no matter how much, even that person lacks a lot of understanding, they often will know, especially when they're like sort of like 20s onwards, they'll probably know how to prepare their mind and the sort of thing to almost they'll like picture how it feels to them. So when you actually go to touch them in that way, they will then know it won't be unexpected and therefore it reduces the anxiety.
That's really helpful. That's really a great tip for the students. So it sounds like touch is a big thing. Is there anything else from a sensory point of view about going for appointments and seeing doctors and so on?
Yeah, one is noise. That's another really big one is noise. Especially if something makes some kind of buzzing noise, certain frequencies as well, like especially the high pitched ones. And some of these frequencies may not be aware to the person you still doing and making the noise. So things like that to me, I just cannot be around someone who's like chewing gum or something like that. It's like the sound just gets to me real bad. So it's like so just be sort of mindful of noise. And if you're going to have to do something that can be loud, make a loud bang, a loud clunk, or some buzzing noise. Just let them know about the noise, and yeah, because who knows, it could have a frequency that person's sensitive to, or it could just be the fact that to them it feels an aggressive noise, or it could just be that it disturbs the environmental noise enough that they just don't like it. So if you let them know it's going to make a noise and kind of describe roughly what sort of noise it's going to make. Like if it's going to make a loud buzzing noise, just say this is going to turn us on, or do what it is. It's going to make a loud buzzing noise. That then person can then prepare themselves for that.
Great, that's really helpful. Is there anything else along those lines?
So another one is smell, or in sight as well. So smell, obviously, yeah, it's hard to manage smell, especially so. Yeah, it's actually very broad. But yeah, if you are in a medical area, you're not like to go open like a smelly lunch or something while you're seeing someone. But it's like if you're going to open up something which is known to be smelly, just warn the person this could be smelly, especially if it's quite a strong smell. And the other one is sight. So I can't let you look in someone in the eyes in person. If I'm looking at someone in the eyes, like on a screen or something like that, it's fine. For some reason, if I'm looking at them in person, it actually hurts my eyes. So quite often, the person with autism may most likely wouldn't give eye contact, and that's fine. They'll probably talk to you like I talk to some people, where it's like I'm talking with the conversation, but I'm looking at the shoulder. I look distant, but I'm actually paying attention. So just because they're not giving eye contact doesn't mean they're not paying attention. It just means that there's probably some reason for it. Possibly they've got what I've got, where they can't actually make eye contact. So yeah.
That's really helpful. And I think probably, going to the doctors, going to the hospital, it's probably quite a challenge, isn't it? Or it can be a challenge. Have you had any particularly bad experiences that you can remember that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I had a real trouble going as a child, especially with I had a blood test, um, and they sort of I didn't really want to be there because I had this mentality that the reason I was going for the test is because I was considered like bad, and that yeah, it's like what's wrong with me, and I was like nothing's wrong with me, but then that's just how the world at that time made me feel, and this was kind of like building towards that. So I wouldn't like it, but and obviously these sort of medical sort of professionals would touch me and everything, not really sort of like yeah, take it into full consideration. And I had one who I was messing around a lot with a blood test. They obviously got fed up with it, and sort of, I sort of went off. I ran out basically, bashing a door, sort of things, sort of trying to get it open. It was one of these ones where you got to open it through the button, and yeah, eventually I got calmed down, went back to the place to get a blood test, and I kicked off again because she didn't like what the chap was doing. So you know, getting two nurses in, basically just holding me down, basically, and had the blood test. And I was like, well, sort of after I was like, well, that was unpleasant, but at least it's over. It's sort of like but back then, very few people knew what was. They just saw me as a naughty child, basically, a lot of the time. Back then, even though I must have been like eight or something like that. But yeah, that sort of time frame, people didn't really know much about this sort of autism and everything. So yeah, and basically sort of, and basically generally all the other experiences are being sort of like touching has caused me to kick off as a child, and even like as an adult, I'll touch someone and I was like, oh, you know, why do you do that kind of thing? I had one GP that I was talking about some sort of nasal pressure or something. So he went up to my face and sort of tapped my face area. He said, "Did that hurt?" And I was thinking, well, I'm just getting for the fact that you just tap my face like that. I'm like, I was like trying not to flick out because obviously I'd expect it. I sometimes my arm flicks out and just goes and slaps someone. So yeah, so yeah, just things like that. People like people touch me and they go, I'm pretty good at it. I like seeing them about to touch me and I prepare myself. I'm thinking, I really wish he didn't do that. It's like.
I'm just thinking about when, you know, if we're going to be talking to the medical students and talking to them a little bit about what they can do themselves as they, you know, go through their careers and the kinds of things they should be thinking about doing. So can you give them any advice? I'm just wondering, we've got this, one of the things that we'd like to suggest to them is that they ask the patient what's helpful to them or what's difficult for them. Do you think that's something that would be helpful? I'm just trying to think if there's any tips that you can give the students.
Yeah, definitely. Asking the person, so quite a lot of them with someone with autism, talking to them, how you talk to them is quite important. And there's going to be unexpected things. There's going to be things which are going to get wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes. Often the person who has autism is used to people making mistakes around them. So they're okay, they'll most likely be okay. So there's a few exceptions with someone making a few slip-ups. But the fact that they are listening to that person and everything. But then again, some people with autism as well, but I have a carer, I have a parent with them, listening to that person as well is important, especially if the person lacks communication skills themselves and not able to fully communicate. Yeah, basically just listen, make it appear you're listening as well, and also make it feel like some medical experts. It must be very annoying for people. It's annoying for me myself, but like parents and carers that some of them they feel they act like they know everything, and that they don't take on board what the person says because they aren't the medical expert. And it's like, but then if you look at my point of view, I'm thinking, yeah, you may be the medical expert, but I'm my expert. I know me. So it's like, so yeah, okay. So when it comes to the medical stuff, I listen to the medical person in front of me, but I'm talking about my autism. So just listen and don't make it appear that you know everything about them, but you just met them. But yeah, so there's basically listening and responding and talk. Even if the person seems to lack understanding, doesn't seem to be communicating about, still talk to them as if they are. Yeah, still ask the questions, still talk to them directly. treat them as a valued social person of the social situation. It's very easy to like just when the person that's being supported by is talking, like because they're neurotypical, or but the person that they're supporting is not, it's very easy to have a conversation just with that person that's supporting them. But the person often that lacks understanding they're not they lack understanding, so they can't communicate, but they still understand when they're not being talked to directly. So include both of them in the conversation if they've got someone supporting them, basically.
Thank you. I think that's really important. Yes. Have you got any other tips for the students?
Yeah, it's basically sort of, I guess, really just consideration that it's okay to make mistakes, and just the sort of mistakes medical experts make are quite obvious. So just being if I'm just basically what I'm saying is that the bar is quite low, really. They're going to be expecting this person that they're seeing, whether it's a standard GP appointment or whatever appointment, even if it's a hospital appointment or that, they're expecting this person to know absolutely nothing and be a detriment to the social situation a lot of the time. This is what I get from my own experiences and the thing, and parents I hear multiple times, like from a wide variety of aspects of my life. They expect this. So just being respectful and listening and being sort of like and taking on board the information that is provided, that already makes you miles above everyone else in the medical profession, sort of thing, and it will go down very nicely with the person with autism and anyone supporting them as well.
That's fantastic. Hopefully our students will take a lot of this on board, James. That's fantastic. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, sort of one key thing is terminology. It's a bit of a minefield with terminology, and various people call various things various different things. Now, I find myself it's very difficult to get around something. Obviously, if you've heard me use the term neurotypical, well, that basically means most people just use the word normal. But the idea that normal is almost like it puts the wrong image across. So the most common one I've heard is neurotypical, and I like it. So I use it. Some people will just use normal. I would advise not to use normal, even if the person themselves use normal. Words like neurotypical, or I sometimes use the word everyday person, but then in the end that can be misinterpreted. So best thing I'd find is listen to what the person, either with autism or supports them or both, identifies certain things as. So if they use the word neurotypical, use the word neurotypical. If they haven't expressed anything like that, neurotypical is a good one to go for, in my opinion. And yeah, just it's one of those things where you probably get it wrong. The person might correct you. Then just be polite and just adjust to what the person wants. And the next person you have with autism might prefer something different. Who knows? Some people with autism don't like, and also people who support people with autism don't like calling it a learning disability, even though in the technical sense it is considered one. And in my opinion, it is one, because I lack ability to take on information, sense information. So therefore, technically is a learning disability. I mean, yeah, it's sort of thing. If certain things people consider learning disability in schools, like dyslexia and everything, well, then autism definitely is, because it's on a whole new different scale to that. So yeah, but then again, if the person doesn't like that, then don't refer to it as a learning disability. But then again, who knows? But then if they often people will expect you to get it wrong anyway. So if you do get it wrong and they go, well, I actually don't like that, just to be polite and say like apologize and use whatever their term they use.
That's really good advice. We are trying to suggest to students that they always check terminology that they use. And we realise that lots of people are sensitive to the terminology around autism and whether they like to be referred to as autistic or to have autism. And I know there's a lot of sensitivity around that. I don't know how you feel about that yourself.
Yeah, I'm pretty free going myself. I mean, I've been diagnosed with Asperger's, but I just say autism because I'm fine with Asperger's, the thing. But I find that when I say Asperger's, people have a misconception of Asperger's. They call it, and I actually have I think that the term high functioning autism as well is misleading, because it kind of puts towards the image that this person is more or less a neurotypical person with slight little differences, hindrances. Actually, it's just as sort of life in changing as just not autism. So I think now these days you don't get diagnosed with Asperger's, high functioning autism, but even then, that's diagnosis makes people expect automatically for you to be more able than someone with autism, but you're not so much more able, it's just different. So it's different enough, I'd say, that it warrants calling it something different. But yeah, I don't use the word Asperger's much. I just call it autism because people of numerous times have expected more from me and not really taking it on board properly because I've called it Asperger's. And some people don't even know Asperger's is actually a type of autism. So that's why I just say I've got autism, but my diagnosis is Asperger's.
That makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like in your day-to-day life, James, there's obviously a lot of challenges that you face, and but you are working one day a week. Do you think that there are other aspects of your life that are affected by being autistic?
Yeah, very much so. Social is one of them. And I guess really I need a lot of help with things. So yeah, meeting people is definitely one thing. Keeping up social interactions is I need help to get to do things. I've got my vehicle now, access to a car, so I can get places now without help. But I still need help and everything to find things there. I mean, I recently funny story, a very long story, so I'll just keep it short sort of thing. But I recently sort of approached a woman at a day centre I used to go to, and I, was getting into the formalities of a relationship, and she's up for it, I was up for it, but the company that run the manager, the owner of the company didn't like it, and it caused a lot of issues for me. It's still an ongoing thing at the moment. But yeah, so that alone, because of how the law works and how a lot of people like the police and everything, even this basic human rights that's been impeded, a lot of the official bodies that would help with that just choose to wipe their hands off of it and just go, well, we don't want to touch that. And social services or adult services don't always, they're not that bothered a lot of the time. So you kind of have to rely upon adult services that aren't bothered, and anyone else who could help don't want to help.
That sounds really difficult.
It is. It kind of makes you feel like, it makes you feel quite helpless, actually. You go really sort of motivate yourself to feel that there is help if you look hard enough. But yeah, most people are like, oh, autism, learning disability, lack of understanding. No, someone else can deal with that,
Do you think there should be more support for you as an adult with autism? Because obviously with children, there's quite a lot of emphasis on support for children, and through school now. I think probably things are a little bit better than when you were at school, I hope. But do you think for you as an adult, there's not a lot of support out there?
Yeah, I definitely think as an adult it's lacking a lot. But looking at the child side of things, there are improvements. I'm hearing people, sort of parents that have got children go through various stages of schools, and I'm getting their feedback and everything. And yes, based upon what I've been hearing from like what my mum's been saying, from what she's been hearing from others, and I've been hearing from others, yes, school has changed. But I feel the school's still got a way to go. And I think it's better to get the child side of things sorted, because that's when things that develop as a child can last into adulthood. So a bad experience or something that's traumatic for a child, if not identified and addressed correctly, or you can't get the person out of it, it can affect them later on in life. So I do think that the priority at the moment is correct, in my opinion, where the childhood is being looked after first. Especially as you become an adult, you've been yourself for quite a while, and you kind of know how to deal with things. I've got so many different things I still deal with. I did all as a child, but as a child, I didn't know how. I didn't have a clue what was going on with me. I'm thinking, I feel this, but I don't know why. No one else feels this, but I feel this. Now I know more about why and everything, and I know how to deal with it. So yeah, I personally do feel the focus in, as a child is the right focus sort of thing.
Thank you. And you were saying that you work for the organisation that supports you. What is that organisation? Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so the company that supports me is called Peak 15. They used to be called, Peak 15 Support. They used to be called Ashcroft Care Services. And yeah, so I kind of got to know one of the managers there, and I got me in like the office, do some work experience in a sense to help, help. The idea was to support me in their office and then help me to educate an employer. But then as I was moving forward in life, that was also still a current goal. And then this turned into them employing me themselves anyway. But now when I was actually I got to learn how good they are and everything and what they do, when I moved out of the family home, I actually got them to support me. So so I now live in my own flat in Forge Wood now in Crawley, and they come in multiple times a day, supporting me with various things, help me clean the flat and help me sort of maintain it and maintain my own personal care and everything. I do struggle with some of that because my brain can process off focus tasks, but what I call broader tasks, like cleaning out lots of bits and bobs all rolled, my brain just cannot process it. It just doesn't want to go in. So I need help with that sort of stuff. But yes, this is very good because I know them and I know they're good. So I get to be working in the office as well. I get to see the company inside and out. Now I'm quite in the office. I'm very actually in the middle of the whole thing on reception, I know all the information sort of thing. But on the other side, I'm also being supported, and for the company, it's valuable because I'm actually giving them information on both sides of the company, and they're already improving. They're always improving. But I'm actually currently they do this thing called the Big Life Adventure, where they're kind of thinking, well, why do you have to just keep someone safe? Why do they be sort of moderately happy? Why can't you just have this person to have what a neurotypical person has? Why does the holiday have to be, Center Parks or some sort of other caravan or other, say, why can't they go in another country? Yeah, it's more difficult, but why can't they do it? And I'm helping them lead that kind of initiative. Yeah.
That sounds really fantastic. So you have a little bit of support with your day-to-day living. So you were saying people come in and help you a bit at home. And what about when you go out? What about things like travel? You said you've got your own car now, but do you still need a bit of support for, I don't know, other things that you might like to do, shopping or, visiting friends or going out socially?
Yeah, normally when I go out and see friends, my brother's there, and I don't ask him to support me, but he does anyway. Yeah, if he feels like he's something he wants to do, and I'm grateful for it. Any help that he provides me. I mean, yeah, some people say I maybe should ask him more, but I think to myself, well, he didn't ask to be my brother, so he shouldn't be automatically be obliged to support me. He supports me a lot, and I'm grateful for anything he does, but I don't directly I don't ask for him to do it, but he chooses to do it, which is good. Yeah, so I go out with friends, normally my brother, or sometimes if I'm going out with other people within Peak 15, I'm supported by staff there and everything. Even though I've got a car, I rely on the sat nav purely because I cannot navigate. I'm in Forgewood in my little housing estate. If I walked out of the housing estate and tried to navigate, I'd just get lost. Originally when I first got here, I ended up trying to get a bus to Crawley Town Centre. Ended up in Red Hill. My mum had to get in the car and come get me. So sort of so yeah, sort of I now, with all the extra strains of living my own everything, I cannot take the bus right now. I cannot process that kind of navigation information. So I do travel a lot by car, but it's a new car. I got it this year in 2021 sort of thing, and I specifically got the model with a built-in sat nav. So basically, as long as the sat nav can get me there, I can get somewhere now.
Brilliant. That sounds very sensible. And what about the pandemic, James? How has that affected you?
Very much so, because it's affected, well, it's very disrupted like my life, like most people. I feel very isolated because I normally would socialize. I'm trying to increase at the moment my social aspect outside of work. But before that, I rely on work to keep myself busy and socialize everything, and that's that. And the office, I've got my Friday evening job. I do sometimes go and volunteer in the same office Mondays and Tuesdays to do the archive, help with archiving and help with other office things and everything. That's volunteer work. And that normally gave me a social aspect. That hasn't opened up just yet. They're still playing it on the safe side because they support people that could be vulnerable to the virus and who are considered, based on the government guidelines, in the vulnerable categories. So they're very careful on the spread. But yeah, it's really disrupted my life, if I'm to be honest. But then again, a lot of the worries I don't have because I'm always up with science and everything and medical science and whatever science. And so as well as these new things have been great. So I think, oh, that's great. That means this could open up, that could open up. I also have a personal interest because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, obviously they got the Pfizer vaccine, but then obviously I'm interested in the AstraZeneca one because it's different to the Pfizer, how it's done. So sort of, and I'm like talking to my support staff and everything, and I'm like saying, yeah, this is different, and the importance of difference, and they're like, okay, they just roll with it because it goes over the head sometimes, but they're used to that with me. I just talk whatever, and so most of it goes over the head. So sort of like and yeah, sort of yeah, when they go to talk about the immune systems and antibodies and everything like that, I'm like I talk about all the fascinating parts about it and other stuff. So I guess I'm helped in that. Most people who don't have that side of things, autism, most may be absolutely, petrified of all this and panic sort of thing. And people who support them have to like calm them down. But because I'm already up and with all this sort of stuff, I know what the people are talking about when they're layers and a health expert or government talk about something. I kind of know the gist of what I'm talking about because it's a personal interest of mine. But yeah, it has definitely disrupted my life. It has.
Oh, thank you for sharing that with us. Is there anything else? I feel we've been on the call for a little while now, James, so we can probably start to bring it to a close. But I just wonder, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us or talk about from a doctor's point of view?
Yeah, mainly sort of just it's all pretty much covered it all sort of thing, but the main sort of summary I would say is that basically just be confident in a sense, because it's like you hear all these negatives from various people from various locations about people with autism, what they can do, how they can behave, and it sounds like this person is. You may seem like when you get someone with autism in whatever you're doing, and you're probably in an office or whatever, or wherever you are, and you've got someone with autism coming in, you probably after all here, you probably think, oh, what is this person going to be like? But they're actually fairly fine, and they're normally what you hear about autism normally doesn't happen until someone oversteps their boundary. So obviously, yeah, especially a child, they can be very much a handful. They're quite energetic. Given something to distract is quite handy. But then again, it's like, yeah, there are definitely people like say, like, if they're all calm and fine, and someone just goes and like grabs their arm or something, not realizing it, go, oh, I want to check something on something, grabs their arm, they recoil from it, don't like it, and then they go off on one. They end up, you know, sort of unplanned, rearranging the office sort of thing. It's sort of like, and they will do that. They'll throw things, they'll do whatnot, and it's just like, yeah, the person often if they're like that, they'll most likely have someone with them. Just sort of let that person help them out, sort of thing. And obviously, there's bound to be policy procedures to follow anyway, being the sort of medical professions and everything. So stay confident, follow what you're supposed to do, and yeah, and the person most likely is just a fine person. That's just the bad side you're hearing about. There's lots of positive autism, so look for those. Everything you hear from everyone else is just when someone is pushed to the boundaries. Once they're inside their comfort zone, they're fine.
Thank you, James. What a fantastic thing to end on. Thank you. That's really, really helpful.